Hello, welcome to another edition of the Bass Report. I'm Brian, Bass reporting live here at the famous Birdland Jazz Club here in New York City. Blessing the band stage this week is newly inducted 2022 NEA Jazz Master Educator and saxophonist Donald Harrison. Now, this New Orleans native has really continued to educate as well as bring the rich tradition of New Orleans music and Black American music by way of jazz, gospel, blues, and hip-hop in his music. This week he's celebrating the legacy of Charlie Yardbird Parker in a series of performances, as well as he's introducing the next generation of musicians that are carrying this music forward. Tonight we had a chance to sit down to break bread to talk about the legacy and how important Charlie Parker is to jazz music. And we also reflect on a young lion who played with Donald Harrison and Terence Blanchard in the 80s, the great Ralph Peterson. So sit back, relax, and enjoy highlights of Celebrating Bird at 100, live here at the Birdland, here on the Bass Report. Congratulations. 2022 NEA Jazz Master Inductee. You are in a class of heavyweights. Stanley Clarke, Billy Hart, and Cassandra Wilson, man. How are you feeling right now?
I feel like I'm at the beginning, and now I have to uphold the great musicians and really stand up and do my part for the music even more so.
You've been doing that for the last 50 years. I mean, I'm you're now Dr. Donald Big Chief Harrison. I mean, COVID has really helped you, advance as far as your accolades and musically on the band stage. Like tonight, you've got these young stalwarts that are playing this music, and I was telling you, Joe Dyson, man, he's ridiculous on drums.
Yeah, he's been with me a long time, and I've just, I play with a lot of great drummers, so I just passed down what I learned from those guys, and the music from New Orleans, and he's a hard worker.
Yeah.
And the talent that he has, along with stuff that myself and other people have given to him, and his work ethic have led to him being the leading light on this instrument, and him being able to approach a lot of different types of music. And just in my band, we might go from hip hop 1 minute to soul music to swing and jazz to Charlie Parker, and all the way down to New Orleans, and then Congo Square in one night. So he has to be ready to do all of that.
And his youth, he's embraced all of that. I mean, you being a person that's so diverse, coming from New Orleans, why is it very important that you teach these next musicians to keep their ear open? Because I've noticed it now, some musicians out here just to play notes, but you have to be able to learn how to play some bossa nova as well as know some blues as well.
Yeah, well, I tell them, if you learn something, you can always choose not to do it. But if you don't learn it, you can't choose to do it. So then I'm giving them choices for their life and for the music. But most of the time, when they learn it, they use it. So it seems like they have more depth from approaching all these different types of music. But it's the same thing that somebody like Sidney Bechet, Louis Armstrong, and Charlie Parker, and John Coltrane, I call them musicians that are inclusive because they include everything that they hear in their music. So that's what jazz was about. You hear Charlie Parker playing the blues, quoting Stravinsky, quoting all this music and all the influences from the people that were before him. It's all in his sound. So that's the formula for being the best, not only the best jazz musician, but the best musician. These great classical composers were listening to jazz. When Debussy heard jazz, he was like, well, I want to put some of this in there. So it goes back and forth. Stravinsky, when he heard jazz, let me see how I deal with this in my world.
He was a big fan of Duke Ellington.
Right. But all these great musicians, they're inclusive. When they hear something, Bartok had folk music in his music. Charlie Parker, you can hear the blues all through it. I got him on what they call jive talk, with a guy going Slimmerooski, Birdarooski, talking that kind of stuff. And we're gonna let you play a little solo, and Bird is talking jive talk with him. So that's like early rap. Bird is on like a rap record for his era.
Right.
And he's rapping. What?
Right. Don, I gotta ask you about this pandemic, because what's interesting is right before the pandemic, you were getting ready to do this tribute to Bird. So now it's Bird 100 plus 1 because we have to add the year on. But this is very interesting that you are now going to play the music with strings at Marcus Garvey Park. What led you to wanting to recreate and revision the strings record?
Well, I always loved that record. And I never thought I'd get the chance to play, but I've been doing it over the years now. But this is, for his centennial, it's really a big deal. And it inspired me to extend, like you said, extend the legacy. So I'm arranging some of my music now for strings, for the same ensemble that Bird played with, that same kind of ensemble. So now I'll have, of course, Charlie Parker with strings, all of that music, plus my music. So I'll have both sides now. The music I came up with that was influenced by Charlie Parker, the music of these times, plus his music. So it's finally come full circle. If I'd have done it in the centennial, I wasn't thinking about that. But with all this time sitting around, the light switch came on. It's like, why don't you do your music too? So yeah, so extending the legacy.
Tell me about extending your music with strings. I mean, strings you have to arrange, you have to find musicians to interpret what you're playing, and then also another thing, in this era, hearing any kind of music with the exception of film scores or maybe musicals, we don't have that blessing to hear strings. How is that now in 2021?
It's great because I love, I've written a lot of classical compositions for full orchestra. So I love that type of music as well, just as much as I love jazz music. But I come from jazz music, that's a new area for me. But to be able to put that together with the orchestra, it gives me another approach to music and another way of looking at it. And now I see a lot of things, a lot of collaborations with orchestra that hopefully we'll get to do and explore that side of myself.
Donald, when Bird put that album out with strings and Miles put out the Birth of Cool record, those were some very, very experimental / very different recordings at the time. How did jazz move forward with those recordings? Because those were like in the early 50s when they came out.
Yeah, well, there's something called third stream music, and those would be, I guess, in that category where they blended jazz with orchestral music. Modern quartet has done some of that. A lot of people did it after, Bird did what he did. So it's just not as popular. I mean, I got something with Ron Carter and Brandenburg on the bass, and it's so phenomenal. It shows the breadth of Ron's genius, because he told me that, I asked him about it, he said it was done in one take, and he was just reading the full score and playing along with it. When you hear it, it's unbelievable what he did, because it's a lot of music to ingest. It's a lot. It's almost impossible. But he improvises so beautifully through it. And it enhances that music in a whole other fashion. So there's guys who are doing brilliant things with it. And that really should be on everyone's playlist, just like Bird with Strings or Love Supreme by John Coltrane. It's an iconic record. I think I'm going to put it, on my Facebook page so let people hear it if they haven't heard it.
Can we talk about Ralph Peterson? You and Terence Blanchard, and you guys all go back to, if memory serves me correct, are Blakey. And then you and Terence formed your group, and Ralph is one of He was your drummer, and we lost him during COVID. Tell me about the first time you met him, and tell me what you miss about him, and tell me what he means to you in the world of jazz.
Yeah, I met Ralph when he was a student at Rutgers University. I guess in the early 80s, 81, something like that. Maybe 80, 70, he might have been 79. But he was always a phenomenal musician. He played trumpet and drums, actually. He was always composing, always searching, trying to be the best that he could be. I was happy that he was able to play with the group, with Terence and I, over the years, and play with Art Blakey. Over the years, we played a lot of different things together. One of the things I always said, Ralph is a drummer who understands exactly where the horn players are going, because he plays a horn.
Right, play trumpet.
Yeah, so that was, like, he knew where you were going, because he thought the same way. Like, horn players understand horn players. Drummers understand us too, but not like horn players. But he was a drummer who understood horn players like horn players, and from a drummer's perspective. So he was a double whammy. So it's always a joy. Like if we're talking, but it's like talking, but he knows what you're about to say before you finish it. So then you make the moves together. And you don't really have to practice how to make those moves. He just knows. So I definitely will miss that.
New Orleans, Detroit, Chicago, Philadelphia, Oakland, there are some even Miami, some very important musical cities that produce a different type of musician and different type of music styles. And New Orleans is extremely important to the idiom of Black American music because there were different forms of music that cultivated and formed into jazz. And you being Big Chief, how did that interact with you learning the different types of styles and the different types of languages of the music down there?
Well, you know, in certain places, they understand the keys to the music from an African perspective. And New Orleans is one of those places, Cuba, some places in Brazil, they can say Afro-Brazilian music, Afro-Cuban, and Puerto Rico, and Haiti. So New Orleans has those same keys to the music. So coming from the culture, I hear music with a perspective of the keys, like a skeleton key in a hotel that unlocks every door. So I know the keys. That when I hear this, oh, that's this key. This goes all the way back to antiquity. So the way I hear music goes back to antiquity, and I think that gives me a little different approach. Because it's not, I don't hear it from right now. I hear it from all the way back. Everything I hear, most of it, if it comes from the African American experience, I hear it all the way back from the roots of it. And then that's the thing that you get when you're inside of the culture of New Orleans, the old culture from Congo Square.
Do you recommend, you know, everybody goes to Berkeley and everybody goes to Howard. There's some great music institutes, USC, the great music schools. But do you recommend that now everyone go make a Mecca visit to study the music down there versus some of these institutions?
Well, I think the institutions have great things to offer students. But I don't think it would be hurtful to go to New Orleans and study. I think it would enhance you. Whatever you got from it, if you learn something, you know. I went to the Mississippi Delta, you know, listen to the blues and learn about the culture down there, and see the dances they have. Blues is a culture, not just some music.
Right.
Well, you have to see it to realize it's a culture. It's like go-go music is really a culture. If you go down there,
right.
Baltimore, D.C.,
yeah,
see the dance styles,
what they wear.
Yeah, everything. Yeah. It's a culture. It's more than just music.
I agree with what you're saying. I was a stateside reporter for Mississippi Public Radio, and I got to go to B.B. King's hometown. I got to do the Blues Trail. I went to see Robert Johnson's. I got to experience the juke joint. Mm-hmm. And you're right. It is more of a culture and an experience more so than the music. It's what makes the music. It's like it's church, but it's for the worldly people.
Right. Well, when you see that, it gives you have a different perspective because you were there. And the person who's just listening to it on a recording or experiencing it away from the culture. You understand, oh, you do this one. So that's all inside. It becomes part of your DNA as a human being. So the more, and I said that during the set, Bird said, if you didn't live it, it won't come out of your horn.
That's right.
And there's no boundary lines to music. Those are two, that's so heavy. It really sums up everything. You know, you're good at telling a story if it's the story of you.
You're right, Donald. You're right, because you playing here at Birdland your spirit is totally different if you played uptown at a place called Showman's.
Right.
You know, I mean, I get it. I mean, that catfish and that brown liquor and that blues, and it's an experience that makes you want to get up on that, and that's what is missing with jazz. Here, we see people sit down and clap. You know, oh, this is fun, oh, but our music is expressive.
Well, you know, I won't say that it's missing. It's just different perspectives. Like, you know, if I say, Lord have mercy, me, you know, they're not going to think to say that. In Nova Scotia, nobody's going to say, Lord have mercy. I swine it. They're not going to. They might not know what you're talking about. So it's just different expressions. And the more you understand those expressions, the more they live inside of you. But I mean, I might do some of the stuff I would do in Harlem. Hopefully, the people will relate to it. Because once something is inside of you, it's honest. When you know, like a sponge, when you squeeze it, whatever went into it, when you squeeze it, it comes out like it went into it.
Right.
It might be all mixed up. So hopefully, since it's honest, people will relate to it. But a lot of times, I will agree that I do what you're saying, and that because I've been so many places and tried to understand the people. My music is based on them. What I play is based on what I got from the people who played it and the people who listened to it.
It's what the OJ said. There is a message in the music.
Yeah. So I try to be honest as I can with that.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Bass Report, reporting live here at Birdland here in New York City. I'd like to personally congratulate and thank the talented Donald Harrison for becoming the 2022 inductee of the NEA Jazz Masters. Congratulations. Also, people, support his upcoming project as well as his tour, which will be coming to a city near you this fall and early winter. Also, I'd like to personally thank the staff and management here at Birdland for their warm hospitality. Also, please like, share, and subscribe to my videos here on YouTube and Vimeo, as well as visit my website, thepacereport.com, for my weekly column, as well as my past segments. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move.